let's introduce Jason Edens. He's the president, CEO, grand poobah of Rural Renewable Energy Alliance, a company we're quite proud of within this region. And Jay will tell you a little bit more about that organization and how they added value to this project.
Well, good morning to everyone. Again, my name is Jason Edens, and I have the pleasure of working for the Renewable Energy Alliance, a nonprofit based in Pine River, Minnesota. I'll tell you a little bit more about our involvement with the Food Hub. But first of all, is anyone inspired yet? Let's hear it for Arlene. Just incredible work that she's doing. So our organization has, again, had the opportunity to be a small part in the Food Hub. Our organization is dedicated to making solar energy accessible to communities of all income levels. Just quickly, out of curiosity, who here is living with solar at their home or business? Okay, who would if you knew you had a great site and money were no object? Exactly. So that's basically why we do what we do. We're trying to create pathways to ensure that solar is a technology that's accessible to all of us. So that's why our organization was able to partner with Arlene and the Food Hub, is because it's very closely aligned with the work that Arlene is doing. Typically, agricultural communities are very high cost of energy communities, and our organization is really trying to target areas that are struggling with the cost of energy. Does anyone here know what propane is going to cost 5 years from now? Who does? Who knows exactly what propane is going to cost? What if you had solar? Would you know exactly what every unit of energy was going to cost for the lifespan of that system? You would. You would. And so that's one of the beauties of renewable energy, is that it's an excellent tool to stabilize the cost of energy. And so it's particularly valuable for agricultural communities and agricultural efforts where we're often dependent on more expensive fuels like propane and fuel oil and electric heat. So there's a really good alignment between the use of renewable energy and agricultural communities and agricultural efforts like Arlene's Food Hub. So what we've had the opportunity to do here is something that is very exciting and something that I suspect 10 years from now will be heralded as an incredible pilot project and potentially a national model. So obviously, as Arlene has said, we live in a very cold climate. We have a very short growing season. And one of the ways in cold climates that we can extend the growing season is through the deployment of high tunnels or hoop houses. So everyone here knows what a high tunnel is, right? Basically a covered greenhouse of sorts. That gives us, what, an additional month, maybe 5 weeks on either side of the growing season, which is very beneficial. What we're doing here is we're adding solar thermal or solar heat to a high tunnel in order to potentially further extend that growing season substantially on both sides of the growing season. So here's the way it works. A solar heating system is coupled with a greenhouse or a high tunnel. We're delivering heat directly into the growing medium, and that growing medium, of course, stays warmer substantially longer, and the temperature of the soil, the warmth of the soil, has a lot to do with foliar development in the plants and the health of the plants. And so again, we're extending the growing season, and although this technology has been observed elsewhere in the state of Minnesota, there are a couple installations of this nature elsewhere in the state. And what we're hearing anecdotally is that this technology, this marriage of technologies is highly effective. But what we haven't done yet is we haven't been able to formally quantify the impact of this technological marriage. So thanks to the funders, we've been able to do a very robust study, and this study will be going on for several years. So here at Arlene's farm, what we're doing is we have two side-by-side high tunnels, one with solar, one without. And then another grower in Pillager has the same thing. So we're going to have the opportunity over the course of the next 5 years to clearly quantify the impact of adding solar heat to high tunnels. But our organization has had the opportunity to do this a couple times with a couple growers, and we have used data logging to see basically what these systems are doing. Here's what we've discovered. The soil doesn't freeze. The soil never freezes. So the beauty of this technological marriage is that we can potentially have, in a cold climate like Minnesota, a 12-month growing season. So what we're looking at is a really powerful intersection or nexus of not only energy security, but food security. And so this is extremely beneficial for food hubs because it allows producers like Arlene to extend the time period that she can deliver to schools, to restaurants, to institutions. And again, we suspect that this pilot project here at the farm at St. Matthias will soon be heralded as an extremely important pilot project and replicated across the nation. So we were very proud to be a part of this project. If you'd like to see the solar heating system, it's just to the right of us, or to my right rather, your left, on that side of the farm, and you can see it. There's also one in Pillager where you can also take tours. And I would encourage you to do so, and we look forward to sharing the data with all of you, and again, we appreciate being involved with it. So, thank you.
I'm going to introduce Matt Nick from Prairie Baby. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on. I'm really excited about this solar project. We ran our 72-foot high tunnel using propane last year, and it was absolutely not cost effective. And the difference between when you heat it with propane, it heats the air inside the tunnel, versus when you're heating with solar that heats the soil. So not only is it going to help us grow longer, I think we're going to get a higher yield because it's going to invigorate those root systems in the soil. So I'm really excited to see how all of that works. And I really, truly, I know we can do 12 months. If I can run that 72-footer with propane, I'm absolutely convinced we can do it with solar. So I'm really excited about that. What I'm also really excited about is the beginning and the emergence of a discussion with another community partner for us, University of Minnesota, who's been a champion for us in this region as well. And maybe the possibility of applying for a grant to fund the nutritional study of food that's produced in a tunnel that's heated with propane and food that's produced in a tunnel that's heated with solar. And why is that important? And the answer is because when you heat with propane, unless you're using a high efficiency propane burner, heating with propane produces ethylene, which is the natural gas that food produces for itself in order to ripen. So if we're using propane and we're producing ethylene artificially, is that artificial ripening of that product decreasing the nutritional value? And there's no real data out there right now that we can find, and so we're researching the possibility of partnering again with the University of Minnesota to do some of that research and to understand. It's important to everybody who eats, but it's also really important to folks that are feeding nutritionally vulnerable people, nursing homes, jails. I think we'd have happier people in jails if we were feeding them really good food and nutritious food. So it's really important to all of us, but it's really important especially to the local units of government who are spending their money to feed people, and especially nutritionally vulnerable people. I want to also touch on where are we going from here and what is some of the community partnerships, the private-public partnerships that we're working on. One of the most exciting ones that we're working on, besides all of the different layers that we've talked about, is partnering with a private investor in Little Falls and looking at the possibility of converting a warehouse, and I don't remember what boats they sold down there, if you want to say that or not. The Crestliner facility in Little Falls, which is a phenomenal facility and has huge amounts of infrastructure already for all of the welding and all of the mechanical work that they were doing. What would that look like if we were able to retrofit that into a space for a year-round food hub, a space for a year-round farmer's market, a space for mirrored commercial kitchens so we can be teaching and producing at the same time, and space for some other retail and wholesale possibilities. And I'm really excited about that because it's the next missing piece. What do you do with the crops that you can't send to the restaurant or are not good enough to go into the CSA? And I already have a really beautiful compost pile. My compost pile grows the most beautiful pumpkins every year. I don't need another compost pile. I need an avenue to put that product through in order to continue building some value added in our region and getting that money back out onto the streets and supporting the infrastructure that we all need in order to live. Did I get it all?
You did. Now you do.
Okay. All right.